Warden Charge Furnace is incredibly strong and has the potential to very easily 3-star every single base. Today I'm going to break the attack down very in depth. This video is going to be separated into 4 parts. Part 1, we're going to go over the Warden Charge and the Fireball. I'm going to tell you where to put the Warden, what defenses you want to target with the Fireball, how to get the Fireball off safely. Part 2 is going to be the Royal Champion, where we want to put her, how we want to deal with the furnaces behind the Warden and the Royal Champion. Part 3 is going to be where to put the Siege Machine and the heroes, the King and Queen that is. And then part 4 is going to be how to use your remaining furnaces and your remaining spells to 3-star the base. We're going to go over all of these things individually in depth. So if you're interested in learning an army that is insanely strong and can 3-star any base, this is definitely the video for you, so stay tuned. Alright, let's kick things off with part number 1, the Warden Charge and the Fireball. Now, we're going to talk about what defenses you want to target with your Warden Charge and your Fireball, how many furnaces you want to put behind him and where. But when you're loading into a base in Legend League or scouting a base for War or CWL, these are the defenses that you're going to want to click on and identify where they're at and what kind of version of defense they are at the start of the raid. Number 1, the Fire Spitters. Where are they? Where are they pointed? Number 2, Infernos. Are they multi or single? Number 3, the Monolith, and number 4, the Hook Tower, if there is a Hook Tower. The reason you want to identify these buildings is these are the buildings that are going to require you to use the most amount of spells to keep your Warden alive if he is getting in range of them. And spells are definitely by far the most valuable resource in this attack, so you want to expend as few resources or spells as possible while executing the Warden Charge, because you want to be able to save them for the end of the raid to keep him safe. Once we've identified where and what those are, if there's multi-infernos, obviously you don't have to worry about those too much for the Warden. If there is a Monolith and you're in range of that, obviously that's a big deal. Same with the Fire Spitters, and you don't want to put them in range of a Hook Tower. On this base, we have the Fire Spitters here in the middle. We don't have any single Infernos. We've got we've got the Monolith right here, and then we do not have a Hook Tower because we have a Crusher Mortar in the middle of the base. Essentially what I want to do is identify where those defenses are and either not deal with them with the Warden or have the Furnaces or the other heroes deal with them, or deal with it with the Fireball. On this base specifically, we can deal with a pretty good area of the base with a Fireball right on this Fire Spitter, right? That is going to deal with the Fire Spitter, Crusher Mortar, CC, Inferno, Multi-Arch Tower, Rage, Scatter, Expo, this Multi-Inferno as well. That is number 1, going to eliminate a lot of the threats to the Furnaces and the Warden, but number 2, also create a fantastic funnel for the rest of your attack, which is also very important. So now that we've kind of identified what you want to target exactly and why, let's talk about how you can approach a base like this. If I quickly identify that's the target that I want to Fireball, obviously I'm going to want to put my Warden somewhere where it's going to make sense to Fireball that, right? If I'm trying to Fireball this Fire Spitter, obviously I'm not going to want to put my Warden over here or over here. That just doesn't make any sense. So we're going to put him in a place where we can get that Fireball off easy. Now, since we have an Ice Block spell, launching the Fireball becomes much less risky. So you can launch a further Fireball deeper into the base, getting more value without risking your Warden going down. So if you need to launch a Fireball right into the middle of the base, that's not a big deal. When you're looking at the base and you put your Warden down, you want to put an appropriate amount of Furnaces behind your Warden that are going to directly correlate with how many defenses are going to be targeting your Warden. So in layman's terms, the more defenses your Warden's going to be hit by, the more Furnaces you're going to want to put behind him, right? This is going to allow you to use less spells to keep him alive. And this is one reason why I like the Furnaces with the Warden Charge more than the Rocket Balloons, is because the Furnaces allow you to expend fewer spells to keep your Warden alive than the Rocket Balloon Fireball attack, making it a little bit easier. You don't have to multitask as much, and the potential, I think, is a little bit higher as well. Let's go ahead and do a live version of this, just so that you can kind of see what it looks like in real time. Since I want to Fireball that Fire Spitter, I'm going to put my Warden down here on this side. We're obviously going to use a Coco Loon so that I know my healers aren't going to die to red bombs or a Seeking Air Mine, right? And then I usually will put about 1 Furnace per defense that's going to be targeting my Warden ahead of him. So there's going to be about 2 defenses or so that are going to be targeting my Warden. When you put your Furnaces down, you don't want to stack them right on top of each other. The burning effect from the Furnaces does not stack, so the more spread out those Furnaces are, the better. And then I also will probably put 1 more Furnace up here as we get closer to like the Expo range and the Fire Spitter range. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Once we get this Builder Hut down, we'll Ice Block my Warden. We can invis these buildings here. We'll launch our fireball, and then by the time this wears off, we have a very safe warden who is not going to really be in any threat. And then he looks like he's going to be heading to the right, so I will start to put my furnaces ahead of him in that direction, right? I won't ever put that many down, but this is just to kind of show you guys an example. Let's go into the part number 2. All right, let's jump into part number 2. Now, as we get into part number 2, you want to end the warden charge or begin part number 2 by scanning ahead of the warden and making sure that he's going to be safe for just a little bit, because this is the one part of the raid that you kind of have to multitask a little bit. So unlike that last example, obviously don't let your warden die here, but I was just talking and kind of putting furnaces down. You'll want to put a couple of furnaces ahead of the warden in the direction that he's going to be going. And then as soon as you realize there's not really a threat of the warden going down, so after this ricochet cannon would have gone down, that's when I would have been able to look away for a little bit and focus on where I want to put the royal champion. Now, where you want to put the royal champion will determine or will depend on a couple of things. One, what direction is your warden heading? We'll go through both scenarios here just in case he would have headed to the left. But since he's going to the right, you really want to put your royal champion in the part of the base that is going to be most difficult for your other heroes to deal with. This is going to really help a lot with you using less spells and things. Like on this base in particular, the monolith is kind of difficult because the warden's not heading in that direction at all. If you put your king and queen here, it's probably just going to target your king down and make him go to ability really early on, because you don't have a whole lot of tanking options for the king and stuff like freeze spells or other things like that. The royal champion wouldn't get a whole lot done over here. She'd probably die very early on. Kind of same thing over here. So because the warden's heading to the right, the monolith, I think, becomes the easiest part for the royal champion to take on without expending too many resources. And then it's also a pretty difficult area for the king and the queen to really reach very well, right? So I'm going to put the royal champion right over here and just use the rocket spear right at the start to just take down, ideally, like these 4 buildings. That's really all I need. Anything more than that's great, but you don't need more than that. If the warden had headed to the left, not a big deal, because if you have furnaces kind of over here, sometimes the warden will be tanked for by the furnaces and the monolith doesn't target him exactly, but you might have to use another invis spell or something to keep the warden alive, right? Like we might have had to use an invis spell while he was taking this down, and then maybe one more, but the monolith by itself does not out DPS the healers. So if the monolith is attacking your warden, that's not a huge deal. Just if it's the monolith and something else, that's when it becomes probably a problem. If the warden was heading to the left, probably the most dangerous part for the warden would be this, right? I would want to eliminate some of that section there so that my warden can actually survive. As my warden heads to the left, even with furnaces and stuff, all of these buildings raged up would just overpower the furnaces and the warden, and I wouldn't be able to keep him alive. So this becomes like the most dangerous part for my warden or the heroes after that point, right? So if my warden had headed to the right, there's really not a whole lot of threat for him for almost the whole rest of the raid over here, because he outranges the town hall enough to where the healers stay safe. And with the fire mites and stuff tanking for him, if he's traveling down this right side, this is ideal. Really not a bit in threat of anything. So we're just going to put Royal Champion over here to deal with the monolith. If he heads to the left, we're going to put the Royal Champion over here to help deal with this raged up section, at least part of it, right? I would have used maybe one more invis spell or something. All the Royal Champion really needs to get down is like 3 or 4 of these buildings to make it easy enough for my warden to deal with that on the back end. And then the Rage Tower would have been triggered at that point anyway because of the Royal Champion, right? With the Royal Champion, you always want to put 1, maybe 2 furnaces behind her because she's going to be targeting defenses, right? And then these 2 furnaces are just going to continue to get value. So this is kind of the plan up to this point with part 1 and 2. We've placed the warden down. We fireballed the core. The warden's going to head this way. We're going to have furnaces kind of lining the warden to continue to tank for him while he's heading up this right-hand side. And we're going to have the Royal Champion kind of head this way as we put a couple of furnaces behind her, and she's going to hopefully deal with this. So that's part 1 and 2. Let's go ahead and do another live hit, and I'll show you up through part 2. All right, so let's do this live up through parts 1 and 2. Let's just kind of do the same thing that we did to start the raid off that we did last time. Put our healers down here, a couple of furnaces. Again, we want to spread them out. The burning effect does not stack, so it's a waste of half the DPS of that effect if they're both landing on one building, right? We want those fire mites to land on different buildings. We'll put one more behind him here. because we're going to get in range of the Expo, the Builder Hut, and the Scatter Shot here in just a minute, or the Flames Fire Spitter, I mean. Once that Builder Hut goes down, we'll Ice Block the Warden again. When you Ice Block the Warden, you should Ice Block only the Warden and let the healers, if I can talk, be un-Ice Blocked, if that makes sense. So we're going Invis, Invis, Invis. Okay, good Fireball. We can put a couple of Furnaces ahead of the Warden in this direction. And once that Ricochet Cannon goes down, then I know the healers are going to be enough to keep him alive through basically anything else. Good idea to put some Furnaces on all the corners, kind of at the start of the raid too, by the way. So let's go ahead and Invis the Warden now so that he doesn't die. And then after that, we will focus on where we want to put the Royal Champion. Okay, Ricochet Cannon goes down. Let's put the Royal Champion right over here with a Furnace. We want to get the Monolith, maybe the new multi-geared cannon if we can in the Expo. Let's Invis the Royal Champion once. Maybe we'll put one more Furnace here to help get with that. And then that's kind of it for parts 1 and 2. Now that we've kind of got the Warden safely heading in one direction, and we've got the Royal Champion. Oh, wow, that was actually kind of nuts. And the Royal Champion's gotten value somewhere else. Obviously, I would poison the Minion Prince here or Ice Block the Warden again, but that's kind of the idea, right? Now that we've gotten that part done, let's go ahead and move on to part 3, which is going to be the Siege Barracks and the King and the Queen. Perfect. So when you're at this point in the raid, nearing the end of part 2, where your Royal Champion's kind of gone down and your Warden is safe, right? Here, I would have either Ice Blocked him or put some more Furnaces down or poisoned the Minion Prince or something to keep him alive. I want to put my King and my Queen in an area where they're going to get to the area of the base that's going to be most difficult for my Warden to handle. We obviously don't want those heroes to draw the Warden in, because then that makes his pathing unpredictable and the healers will die usually. The most difficult part for the base for the Warden to deal with right now is definitely going to be this Rage Tower area. So we're going to use the Siege Barracks essentially to get the King and the Queen to go where I want them to. That's really the whole point of the Siege Barracks. So if we're looking at this left-hand side of the base right here, obviously it becomes pretty easy to see what we need to do exactly. I'm going to put the Siege Barracks here, and we can put like one Furnace right here to maybe help get these 2 buildings down so that they're not there. And then I will put my King and my Queen just right over here on this left-hand side. King behind the Queen, right, so that he tanks. And then we'll use our one wall breaker that we've got right here so that they will eventually step into this compartment. And with this attack, it's better to be safe and use the King ability early on so that he opens these walls instead of later, because what will happen is, let's say the King walks through and gets all of these buildings down, and let's just say there's like this laboratory out here. He might walk out of here and then these walls won't get open from his ability, which is what we want. We want those buildings to be hit by the Earthquake Boots and Spiky Ball, right? So once he steps in here, gets past like this first building and maybe this second one, when he's touching one of these buildings over here up against the wall, that's when I want to pop his Earthquake Boots and Spiky Ball, because then the Spiky Ball should bounce to most or all of these buildings, and then all of these walls are opened up and we can use the Queen ability to help deal with the rest of that section. So with that being said, let's go ahead and I will I'll redo the attack. We'll talk about part number 3, and then I want to the amount of spells that you're going to invest in your King and your Queen are going to really depend on how safe your Warden is. If your Warden's not very safe and there's going to be defenses or heroes or other things ahead of him, you're not going to want to use any spells with your King and your Queen. But if he's going to be pretty safe, you can definitely Ice Block the Giant or the King, or poison things ahead of them, and we always have some revive spells if any of your heroes die, right? Perfect. Let's go ahead and dive into part number 3, the Siege Machine and the heroes. Now you can see on this raid, I actually put a Furnace at each of the corners of the base at the beginning, which really helps with the funnel for the heroes, or really the funnel for anything at any point of the attack. So this is actually a really good habit that you should get into, is just putting a Furnace at the corner. Obviously if there's a bunch of defenses there, then it might not make sense, but on this one where there's a bunch of trash buildings, it absolutely makes sense. It makes the funnel for the King and the Queen really easy, and it will help save time if the trash buildings are an issue at the end of the base, right? So now I really don't even need to use my Siege Barracks essentially to funnel my heroes there, but I'm going to put the Siege Barracks here because I do want those Furnaces that pop out from the Siege Barracks to come out when the Siege Barracks runs out and then help tank and do damage at the end. And then I'm just going to use my wall break right here and get my King and my Queen into this compartment. And again, once my King is on one of those 3 buildings that are along that back wall, that's when I'll pop the ability. So let's go ahead. We put the Siege Barracks down here. I'm going to wall break right there at the start. And then I'm just going to put my King and my Queen down. I will pop the Queen ability a little bit early, And then at this point, we're just waiting for that king to get along that back wall, and then we're going to be happy with whatever he can get with the earthquake boots and spiky ball at that point. Right there, again, we do hit most of the buildings there, and then the queen should be able to clean up the rest of them very easily. And then I do revive the royal champion here, but part number 3 and part number 4 are fairly easy. Really, this attack isn't super complicated. It just requires a little bit of knowledge of where to put the warden and then how to use the other heroes and stuff after that. But if you can put your warden in a spot that's going to get good value, the rest of the attack becomes pretty easy. So let's go ahead and talk about part number 4 after this, which is going to be how to use your remaining spells and furnaces. So although this is part number 4 almost consists of doing things throughout the entire attack, start to end. As you're moving through the end of part number 1, you'll essentially place furnaces ahead of your warden in a place that will continuously tank for him, as well as help speed his little mission up through the base, so to speak. You'll also just put a furnace behind like the royal champion to help clear the trash buildings that are going to be behind her when she's finished up. The spells that are remaining are going to be used to keep your heroes alive or revive them, right? Essentially keeping them alive. The warden is definitely the number 1 priority. He's got the unlimited sustain and none of the other heroes do with these healers, and he also will help the fire mites more than they will with any other hero, right? Because he's got the rage gem effect on the fire mites as they go. So you're basically going to use your furnaces and your spells to keep your warden alive primarily, but if he's pretty safe, to help your other heroes. So let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and push play here. And again, I'll just use 1 or 2 furnaces kind of up a list right hand side to help tank for him. I've got one more here on the corner right over here. I'm going to change colors so that you can see this a little bit better. And then as we are ending through part number 3 here. Obviously, the ice block spell, I can use that to keep the warden alive too. I poison the minion prince so that my warden can stay alive. That's the whole purpose of the spells, right? To keep the heroes alive. I ice block the warden here in just a minute too to help keep him alive too, because you can see he started getting kind of low. So I ice block the warden so that he can be healed up to full health. And again, you want to ice block the warden and not the healer so they can continue to heal him up. I think probably what happened is like 3 of my healers have been hit by black air mines, so I only have like 2 left, which is why he's not got a ton of sustain left. And then as there is nothing that can really target the royal champion or anything else, and I know my warden's probably not going to die, I can revive the royal champion. Obviously, if there was like a multi-geared cannon here or a ricochet cannon, I don't really want to revive the royal champion until those are being tanked for, right? Because you don't want to revive her and have her die instantly or lose 90% of the remaining health that she has instantly at the start. That's pretty inefficient. You want to wait till the royal champion is being tanked for. I would say the royal champion is definitely by far the most consistently revived hero as I'm doing this attack. The warden's probably number 2, and that's really only if I've failed to multitask. It's pretty easy to keep the warden alive if I'm looking at him, but if the warden goes down, I can quickly revive him and he gets the healers again so that they don't travel across the base and die. And then if time is going to become an issue, if you have kept the other heroes alive, then you can revive like the king or the queen if you need to. But the revive spells, I found myself swagging so many spells with this army, like sometimes up to 10 or 11 if I had, that I took a couple of revives just to help with time, because the invisibility spells obviously don't do anything for time afterwards, but the revive spells can revive a hero like the royal champion to help speed the rest of the attack up a lot. So we're going to swag a revive spell here. The king and the queen are both, or the royal champion and the king are both down at this point, but we actually still had about 45 seconds left at the end of this attack, so this one was a fairly quick attack too. Obviously the fireball got insane value, and the earthquake boots and spiky ball got insane value as well. But let's go ahead, we'll do some friendly challenges on some more bases so that you guys can see this process, parts 1 through 4 on several bases, and then I will even include the base links for every base that I'll be hitting today so that you guys can replicate these attacks just to get the hang of it before you go into Legend League or anything, so that you can kind of copy my thing, because I feel like it's a good confidence booster if you can just crush a base a couple of times, get the hang of the attack start to finish, and then move into bases that you're not familiar with. So I'll include the base links for all of these. So this will be base link number 1. Perfect. So this will be base link number 2. This is going to be one base where I think, as we're looking at the fire spitters and the infernos and the monolith and everything, this is probably going to be one base where we're not going to fireball the fire spitters or anything like that. It just makes sense to, I think, fireball this rage tower here. It gets the clan castle as well as a ton of other defenses. And if I do that, I don't really have to deal with the fire spitters if I can get my warden to go down instead of up. And the way that I'm going to do that is if I put my warden kind of down over here, and Fireball. Obviously, all of these buildings go down, and I can have like a furnace kind of like right up here to help deal with this wizard tower. And once that wizard tower goes down, the only buildings that are going to be left are down in this direction. So that's kind of the plan. I want my ward to go down. The monolith is a lot less scary than the fire spitter just because of the range. So that's going to be the plan. And then after that, I will probably put the royal champion somewhere right over here to help deal with at least one of the fire spitters, and then we'll have the king and the queen deal with this invis tower, and we're going to hope that we can kind of charge through the rest of the base together. That's going to be the plan for this base. Let's go ahead and dive in live. So again, we're going to put our warden kind of off to the side here. Loon, healers. And if you put a furnace right on top of the warden, the healers will heal the furnace. By the way, I don't know if you knew that. I was maybe a little bit off with that, but we might draw some of the CC. We have a furnace in the CC, so I will poison that, but that's not a terrible thing, right? If we deal with some of the CC, we have a poison. Also, the warden and the fire mites deal with these things really well, so I'm not overly worried about this. We want to wait till we can get a good fireball. Maybe once this wizard tower goes down, I can invis. Whoa, that was close. Perfect. Okay, we get a good fireball. Oh, we might be going up still. Maybe we'll come back down. Oh, we actually drew the ice column out. You know, let's put one fire or furnace here. Oh, I put that right in range of the archer tower. Genius. And then we'll start phase number 2, which is going to be, or part number 2, which is the royal champion. And the reason I'm putting the royal champion there is just to start a funnel with the king and the queen so that they go the right direction. So now that we've kind of got our funnel, we can put the king and the queen down. We're going to definitely wall break them right there. That's for sure. We're going to put a couple of furnaces ahead of the warden. Again, one multi-inferno, or one monolith is not that scary for the warden. And even if the town hall's hitting him, yeah, I guess you can actually just outdo both of those. We're going to pop the queen ability right now. We did lose one healer I just saw, so I will start putting down some Cocoons maybe to avoid that from happening again. Okay, we're going to pop the king ability. Warden should go get the town hall now. And then the, oh my gosh, I still have my siege barracks. Let's see if we can swag it, actually. Okay, keep the warden alive. We'll put our last 2 furnaces right here. Yeah, we swag the siege machine. This is not that's something I would normally do, but I didn't even realize I put it down, or didn't put it down. Yeah, I think we've got enough tanking and stuff, and with the giant coming over here, I think we should be good. Yeah, we're gonna swag a siege machine. There you go. I should have put the siege machine down over here to help get the heroes and tank for them a little bit more, but I mean, it makes it work, right? Jeez, ricochet cannons hurt. We got it. There you go. All right, base number 3. As we're loading into this, again, we want to go through our little checklist of defenses that we want to look out for. We've got the fire spitters here pointing opposite directions. We do have single infernos that are all on the right side of the base. Well, 2 in the middle, 1 on the right side. And then we've got the monolith on the left. What we can do to... And then there's no hook tower. So what we can do to kind of avoid most of those is if we place our warden right over here. Sometimes the easiest fireball is the best. We're just going to quickly drop 2 invisibility spells, fireball this the monolith. Not the most insane fireball, but we are going to get the poison tower, the clan castle, the expo, the monolith there, and then we should head up. And this is important because this is going to mean that we're not going to have to deal with either of the fire spitters, right? Because this one's too far away over here, and this one's pointing the wrong direction. So then the next really scary thing becomes this single inferno up here. And the single infernos are only scary if you're not paying attention. If you're paying attention, they're very easy to distract, very easy to just put an invis down. They don't have a ton of health, so they go down fairly easily. The only time they really catch you off guard is if you're not multitasking, right? So that's always something, if there are single infernos on the base, something you need to just keep in the back of your mind. After that, the scariest part for the warden is probably going to be as he's coming around the base, it might actually be like this fire spitter, ricochet cannon, single inferno over here as he's coming back into range, maybe as he's coming down. So what I will do is put the royal champion just right here. And if she can get the fire spitter, great. But if not, then we eliminate one of the single infernos. The goal of the royal champion is to make it so it's easier for the royal, or for the king on the, or the warden on the back end of the base. And then one thing I didn't really touch on, but I should now, you want to put your king and your queen somewhere where your royal champion died, because then they'll destroy the defenses that are going to be close to her dead body so that you can revive her, right? You don't, if you have her die and then you don't have any of those buildings destroyed by her, it was almost, you can't really use the revive on her. So let's go ahead and dive into this attack. All right, again, we're just going to get a really easy fireball. I'm not even going to put my warden down until really easy. We'll put a 𝗩𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗖𝗛 down. Got our healers. We'll go ahead and use our couple of furnaces here. And we might actually be going down because I don't want to put my warden up enough. But we'll work with it. We'll figure it out. I probably will. Okay. Are we in range of the king? As soon as I see the exclamation points on the king's head, I will put a headhunter down because... Okay, perfect. The exclamation point, the exclamation marks on his head means he's aggroed onto your hero, right? So, yeah, it looks like we might be heading down, which is fine. I just need to make sure that I'm multitasking enough around this single inferno to where it's not going to wreck me. We're going to put a couple more furnaces over here to distract. We're going to put one more 𝗩𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗖𝗛 down. Perfect. We might be going to the multi-archer tower next. And then I'm just going to let the royal champion die. I don't think I'm really going to be able to save and get much more than that. So that's fine. I'm going to put one more furnace right here with the warden. Okay. And again, single infernos are only scary if you're not paying attention, right? We're going to put the siege barracks and the furnace up here real quick, and then I'm going to look right back at my warden so I can invis him again. King, queen. We're going to wall break right here. Okay, that single inferno is going to go down. The multi-geared cannon is the next thing, so I know I'm not going to be able to multitask a whole lot because I need to make sure that I'm paying attention for that. We're going to put a couple more furnaces with the warden here. We're going to ice block the king so that the queen can get some good value. Okay, the multi-geared cannon never actually targeted my warden. So we're going to wait a little bit for the king. Okay, that's going to have to be a good enough ability. Let's put the last two furnaces down. I should have done that sooner because how much time is left. But you can see just how many spells we're going to swag here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spell space worth of spells. And we could revive both heroes. Why not? Let's just do it. There you go. So that's the idea. If time were an issue, then you can revive the royal champion or the king to help clear things faster, right? And I had a couple of little cleanup troops and things left too. All right, base number 4. This is another very common base that I've seen in Legend League. I've tried to include some ones that I've seen a lot of. That way you guys can get practice against bases that are common. On this base, let's go ahead and run through our checklist. We've got fire spitters in the middle of the base. This is usually worst case scenario because they're usually hardest to reach. We've got a monolith down here. We've only got multi-infernos. We do have a hook tower over here. So we want to avoid the hook tower, obviously. And probably what I'll do to deal with the hook tower is, this is kind of the plan that I'm coming up with. I want to put my warden probably right over here. We're going to try and fireball the scatter shot. That's going to get one of the 2 fire spitters, not one that's going to be attacking the warden. But we'll get the rage, the other scatter shot, the clan castle, some builder huts, this multi-inferno here. So that's still a very good fireball. I need to place my earthquakes like right here. And since none of these buildings except for the clan castle need 2 to go down, okay, so I kind of have to put my I'll have to put my earthquakes like right there. And then I will hope that my warden goes left. If my warden goes right, things are going to get kind of hairy because of the hook tower. What I'll do at that point is probably put down the royal champion on the left-hand side over here and just have my warden follow the royal champion until she dies, which you can do. And will probably just waste the rocket spear at that point because that's better than having my warden go down. And then I'll try and have I'll just put my king right over here and just have him be sucked up by the hook tower and just get that down. And he'll actually get insane value because the CC will be dead. So he's not going to be frozen up. The stuff should just continuously tank for him. So, and then I'll just put the queen right over here too. All right, that's the plan. Let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to try and get a massive fireball. And to try and make sure that my warden's going to go the right direction, I'm going to put a furnace like off to the right over here, just so that I know that he doesn't, he's more encouraged to stay on the left-hand side, right? And I will, once a few of these defenses go down, this might be a little bit of a lengthier warden charge than I normally do. It might be. I'm not exactly sure how long this is going to be yet. Because we actually can invis quite a few of these buildings. Okay, so we are coming up here. Okay, we're up to the ricochet cannon, but that's not terrible. We're going to get the ricochet cannon down. Once the multi-archer tower goes down, that's when we'll fireball, or all ice block. Perfect. Get that. Both scatter shots go down. Okay, well, again, I want my warden to go to the left, so I will put this here. We're going to put the king here. A couple of furnaces. Siege barracks. We'll pop the king ability now. Again, I'll probably just waste the rocket spear shots and let her just be in Phoenix mode while she does it, because I don't really know a better way to handle that. We might be able to revive her a little bit, right? We're going to put the last two furnaces just over in this direction so that they can tank for the warden. Oh, warden died. Okay, we need to revive the warden and keep these healers alive. Okay, that single info needs to go down. Perfect, it does. We've got another revive that we can use for the Royal Champion here now. And you can always ice block the Royal Champion, by the way, and it's actually really good because her aura still just continues to get damage, but we didn't really need it here. Perfect. This one was a little hairy, but, I mean, it's still crushed, right? Got a lot of furnaces left, a lot of time. A 𝗪𝗔𝗧𝗖𝗛. This will be base number 4. That's going to do it for this video. If you guys have any questions about things that I talked about, or maybe you have suggestions, let me know in the comments below. This video took way more time and effort than any other video I've made as far as getting the editing done and doing enough friendly challenges to learn what works best with the army and everything, as well as collecting the footage to get it all together. So if you guys wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I would really appreciate that, as well as leave a comment with maybe 2 things. 1, do you like this kind of stuff? Because I want to gauge if this style of video is worth it. But 2, what kind of armies you want to see me break down like this next? But that will do it for this video. I'll see you guys next time.